Teacher-made test versus commercially prepared test. Teacher-made tests are frequently the major basis for evaluating students' progress in school, but there are well-made commercially available tests in the market. Why not use those? Well, let's take a look at the two types of tests. Let me draw a summary. So in general, most commercially prepared tests like reading readiness test, TOEFL, SAT, LSAT, Miller Analogy, GRE, to name a few, okay, are quite long, and they are not meant for frequent administration. Right? And most objective tests cover a wide range of objectives, even within a particular subject area for what else? Marketing purposes. So this also explains why they are very long, and they normally take about 3 hours to complete. Right? Most of them very long. Teacher-made tests are quite flexible, on the other hand, okay, and could take any form and format, and therefore it could be tailored to fit the class or even an individual student. On the other hand, commercially prepared tests are always made, are already made, right? And hence the format and all the test items are fixed and cannot be changed. No amount of flexibility is offered. Now, another thing that the content of commercially prepared tests are usually out of date by at least a few years, say 2 to 5 years, right? 2 to 5 years, and sometimes even longer. Okay? Because these tests cost the publishers a lot of money to prepare, as you have already seen in the creation of norm groups. Right? Now, most, if not all, of the items are taught and written by the teacher, and therefore the results of the test tend to inform the teacher of both student performances as well as her own teaching strategy. Right? That's from the perspective of the teacher. And the focus of teacher-made tests could be very flexible, while commercially prepared tests cannot afford to do likewise. Let's take a look at this here, okay? Now, I just read you the summary of this here, the summary I prepared, okay? But then let's get to this. Teacher-made test. It can be a weekly quiz, and even more frequent if the teacher prefers, right? So it can be administered frequently to provide frequent evaluations as well as frequent feedback about the students are learning. Commercially prepared tests are usually very long. Most of them take about 3 hours to complete. So it is they are seldom administered more than once a year. Right? And also they are quite expensive. Right? Now, teacher-made tests are more closely related to a teacher's particular objective and the students. Is that right? the teacher, she could tailor the test to fit her objectives, to fit the CL of her students. Right? Now, however, objectives were covered in commercially prepared tests tend to be very general. Why? For marketing purposes, so that the publishers could sell the test to a lot of customers, right? Now, teacher-made tests can be tailored to fit the class or even an individual student. Okay, and even an individual student. However, commercially prepared tests, all those objectives, like the classroom objective, teachers' objectives, have to be tailored to fit the test. Just the other way around. Right? The content of teacher-made test is always up to date and reflects the current curriculum. Right? Because it is teacher-made tests very flexible. However, for commercially prepared tests, the content is usually out of date 2 to 5 years frequently, right? Because it is very expensive to update the test, update test items, update the norm group. Number five, the result of teacher-made tests help the teacher develop more efficient teaching strategies, and also they inform the teacher of students' performance, student learning. Commercially prepared tests do so only if the test reflects the particular objective, and often they do not. So that's the problem. Teacher-made tests can sample thoroughly in a particular area if the teacher chooses to do this. That is to say, they can focus on any single aspect of the course content. However, this kind of flexibility is not available in commercially prepared tests. So normally, they focus on a variety of skills and knowledge because then they can for marketing purposes, right? However, the similarity is that both serve the purpose of evaluating student skills and knowledge. Okay, all right, so let's take a look here. Classification of teacher-made tests. Format: essay, objective test, essay, written or oral. So most of the time, essay test is at least half a page or more. Right? Say a term paper has to be, oh my goodness, I don't know, 20 pages, 30 pages, thesis, say something like 50 pages to 100 pages, right? All right, objective tests. What are they? Matching. True, false, multiple choice, short answer. As long as all of them have only one answer. So that the test could be marked or scored by anyone, even by machine. So that's why it is called objective. Anyone, absolutely anyone with the answer keys could mark the test. And that's why it's called objective. All right. So whatever matching, true, false, multiple choice, short answer. Short answer is a cross between objective and essay. But so long as it has only one answer and could be dichotomously scored, it is considered to be an objective test. Right? Type of stimulus materials. Okay, let me verbal. Most of the time, all of these are what verbal tests, and we have non-verbal tests. Right? For example, music and art, sports, stimulus materials are mostly non-verbal. Okay, they are like pictures, songs, enjoying, in painting, a life model, and then that one action in a judo class, in a karate class. All right, now, so we have both verbal, non-verbal, but mostly verbal. Right? Purposes of the test and the use of test result. Remember, we have CRT versus NRT. Okay, criteria reference test. You compare the performance to a criterion. NRT, no reference. You compare the performance to that of the norm group. So we have achievement versus performance. Most of our school tests are achievement tests. So all of these are achievement tests. Performance, music, art, sports, and judo, karate, those are what performance tests. Formative versus what summative. Well, formative tests are given frequently, and the results are not used to assign the grade, but rather used to modify and direct student learning and teachers' instructional strategy. So formative test, the test results inform the teacher of what student strengths and weaknesses. And the results also inform the teacher about her teaching strategy, instructional strategy. Right? Summative tests are usually given at the end of the unit, at the end of the chapter, or what? At the end of the course to determine course grades and how well the students have mastered the course content. For example, final exam, okay, a term paper, a thesis. Right? So summative tests are much longer than formative tests, right? And therefore, summative tests should be far more reliable than what? And formative tests. All right, so let's take a look at deficiencies in teacher-made tests. Take a look here. Now, ambiguous wordings or questions. Okay, when a statement or word in a question can be interpreted in more than one way. An example will be what? Aggressive. The adjective aggressive. It can mean positive. It can mean what? Positive. They always were thinking of climbing up, or negatively, it can be what? It can be negative, always thinking of punching others. So ambiguity could be minimized through editing or through independent reviews of the test items by another teacher or expert in the field. I remember mentioning that one, the most ambiguous English word. Okay, I think I mentioned what? Sanction. The word sanction. I'll give you an example. Say, if someone in authority sanctions an action or practice, they officially approve of it and allow it to be done. Okay, so sanctions are measures taken by countries to restrict trade and official contact with the country that has broken international law. It's like what, like the NATO and the US sanctioned what Putin, Russia. So a sanction is a severe course of action which is intended to make people obey instructions, customs, or laws. All right. So this word has absolutely what diametrically opposite meaning. Right. Another word is what cleave, C-L, cleave. Take a look. Oh. Okay. Cleave. When you cleave something, you split or divide it into two separate parts, often violently, of course. But another meaning of this word is what? If someone cleaves to something or someone, they have a strong attachment and loyalty to them. Right? So you see what here, entirely what? Entirely opposite meaning. All right. Now, of course, there are also ambiguous names that confound gender. For example, Ashley. You could find what both what male and female with names one Ashley, same as Leslie. Okay, Nikki, Laurie. Yes, I have one my dean in Alberta. He's called Laurie Walker, a man. Okay, Julian. Okay, Julian. Okay, Julian Caesar, and you have Julian Lennon. You also could be what? Could be a girl's name, a woman's name, right? Pat, Patricia, Patrick. Dana. Dana usually is a female's name, but then look at our faculty member, Dana Murphy, a bearded guy, okay? And Kelly. Kelly could be a guy's name. Remember the film by what? By Clint Eastwood many years ago, I think in the 70s. Kelly's a hero. Kelly is Clint Eastwood. Anyway, all right, so much for ambiguous wordings or what? Or a question. All right, excessive wording versus more precise and clear-cut wording. So here, the concept of parsimony or a KISS principle applies here. Parsimony means what? You keep things simple, concise, and to the point. So that's parsimony. Okay. Thank you what? Occam the razor. Remember that? Okay. So the idea is, why do you want to do something with more while you could do it with less? Right? So that's what. So let's keep it simple. I lack of appropriate emphasis. Okay? Most teacher-made tests consist of items that measure factual recall because these items are easy to construct. Yes. remember what? Remember Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, you have what? You have K, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. At this level, factual recall, it is what? It is very easy to construct items. Here, difficult, far more difficult than this. And here, application is a quantum leap ahead of these two. Analysis, another quantum leap ahead of this. Okay, and of course, here they are very difficult to construct. Okay? You mean I mean construct items at this level is easy. At this level, far more difficult than this. At this level, a quantum leap more difficult than these two, and so on. All right, and so on. All right. So these items, okay, of what's a factual recall, they are easy to construct. Items that measure what? Comprehension, applications, analysis, synthesis, and all these higher levels, they are very difficult to construct. And I will come back to this when we discuss objective test. All right. So lack of one appropriate emphasis. That's to say, the test items do not cover objective test and taught. For example, some teachers like to have a couple of items on footnote on the preface of the book on trivia, like Trivial Pursuit. Okay, all right, and then only test the student's ability to recall what specific fact and information. Now, by doing this here, the teacher is actually encouraging the students to commit to memory everything, rote recall, is that right? Without having to understand the material. All right. Another one is that use of inappropriate formats. Not all teachers are capable in constructing, say, multiple choice items or essay items. All right? So the need for diversity should not govern the type of items to be used. The teachers should be selective and choose the format that is most effective for measuring a particular objective. All right? Okay. Factors to consider when selecting an item format. All right. So for broad content sampling, okay, for more objective scoring, objective test. Now, why broad content sampling? You see here, let's say test time of 1 hour. For objective test, for multiple choice, true, false, and so on, okay, the teacher could have about 60 items for 1 hour. Why? It is in general, it is like this for for multiple choice test. It is based on 1 minute per item. Yes, 1 minute per item. And this is the standard. So theoretically, the teacher should be able to have 60 items, 60 multiple choice items in the test. All right. So with 60 items, then those 60 items could provide for broad content coverage. Okay? And also objective scoring, because what? There is only one correct answer. Anyone could score it. Therefore, it is called an objective test. Remember? Okay. So depending on whether we want these two. But then, however, to measure originality, like at the synthesis level, and to measure students' ability to organize ideas, synthesize ideas, and express those ideas coherently in their own words. Only one kind of test could do that, okay? Essay or oral. No objective test could accomplish this. Okay, good. All right, let's take a look at time. Time to prepare the test, say 50 to 60 questions per hour. It will take the teacher a heck of a lot of time to prepare 50 to 60 items. Okay? And what? Let me tell you this. On the average, a professional item writer could produce something like, on the average, no more than 14 good items per day. And you understand what I mean? Per day. Okay? So it's not easy. Okay? And we will come to that here. Okay? Now, the multiple choice test consists of a stem, like the statement or sometimes the question, and at least 4 to 5 alternatives. One correct answer, and the other are what distractors. And distractors are supposed to be homogeneous. Okay? Because if not, we'll run into the one. Remember, test wiseness, 1/3 or 1/4 split. Okay? So we'll come to that in due time. All right. So objective test takes a long time to prepare. Essay, say 1 hour. The maximum number of essay question would be about 6 to 7 questions per hour. Say half a page answer, 6 to 7 questions per hour. Okay, even 1 page. Okay, that's the most you could want. You could give the class. Otherwise, they will throw an egg at you. Time to grade a test. Whoa, it takes a lot of time to grade essay. We will cover this in due time. Okay? And it is pain to mark long essay. Okay, and it takes a lot of time to mark essay, and it is not easy. Okay, and we will cover this later on. Objective test, is easy, right? You have let's say multiple choice. You could use the machine Scantron to do that, or you develop your template, put the template over the test, and you could count the number of correct. So it is a breeze. Okay? It is easy to do that. Number of students to be tested, you have to consider this. Okay, if you have only a few students, and if the test is not to be reused, think of essay or oral. Of course, mostly essay. All right. Now, you will essay 6 to 7 questions. If you cannot repeat these questions in for another class, because they know. Okay, words, among students, words travel faster than fire among dry wood. Okay? That's the case. All right. So, objective. If you have a large number of students, because it is easy to grade this test. And if the test is to be reused with another group, you have, say, 50 to 60 items. It is very difficult for the students to memorize all of them, or even some of them. So objective test, multiple choice, they are what? Multiple choice tests are meant to be reused, but not essay. All right. Age of student. Now, age of students here. So for younger children, you or students with learning difficulties, changing item formats with accompanying changes in direction to be followed may result in confusion in adapting to new instructions. Therefore, it's better to stick to one format whenever possible for these students. All right? And of course, for younger students, let's say true false is far better than multiple choice, right? True false can be considered to be a multiple choice test, but with only two alternatives. Right? So younger children could do that, could do true false. Okay? But as they grow older, you could give them 4 choice, multiple choice, and later on 5 choice. Teacher skills. Some item formats are easier to write than others. Teachers do a better job with one type than another. Right? So it is depending on teacher's skill. Right? Test length. Take a look at test length. Now, remember here, a term test requires fewer items than a final exam. All the time, the final exam consists of far more items than term test. Is that right? Final exams are all the time summative, all right, for assigning grade. Term test may be summative or it can be formative, right? Weekly quizzes can be formative and of course can also be summative, right? A diagnostic test, you want to acquire a lot of information about the patient or about the person, about the client, and you want to be accurate. Therefore, you need a lot of test items to have thorough and intensive coverage of the content. Okay, so a diagnostic test has far more items than an achievement test in general. Right? So diagnostic tests usually are much longer than achievement tests. Of course, we cover this summative evaluation. Summative tests or all summative tests consist of far more items than formative tests. So summative evaluation consists of far more items than tests for formative evaluation. Kind of items used. In terms of time to finish an item, it takes far more time to finish an essay item than short answer in general, than multiple choice, than true false. This is in general, this sequence is true. Reliability design. Remember, the longer the test is, the more reliable. Okay, so if you want your test to give consistent results. Okay, you may want to have more test items. All right. Students' age, a general rule of thumb here. Okay, a general rule of thumb here. Primary grades no more than 30 minutes. Intermediate elementary grade about 40 minutes. Junior, senior high, 90 minutes. University students, 3 hours to 6 hours. This is true. GRE used to be 6 hours. Ability level of students. Slow learners require more time than average student, and gifted, of course, there are one fast. Is that right? Most gifted students are fast. But then remember our discussion on IQ. Fast does not necessarily mean what? Mean intelligent, mean high IQ. All right, good. All right. Thank you.